What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Butta B-Rocka, here on Transparency Talks podcast. Listen, we have an amazing show for you today. I'm super excited about our guest. But before I bring on your guest, make sure that while the COVID is going on, you are doing stuff to elevate your mind. It's a lot of time out there right now, so you could be, this is a time where you could be working on your body, working on your mind, being extremely creative. When you get a free moment, make sure you read my book, Fear of Failure, Fear of Not Trying. I did become an Amazon bestseller within 7 hours, and it was endorsed by Mr. Les Brown and featured on CBS and ABC and NBC and Fox. So make sure that you support your girl. Also, Defiant One's Teen Magazine is out. The next actual article comes out, magazine edition comes out on August 15th. They are on their 7th one. It's a magazine for teens by teens that highlights teen entrepreneurs from age 13 to age 26. But they also talk about financial literacy, bullying, sex trafficking, mental health and wellness of teens and young adults, and a lot of other things. So make sure that you go out and support Defiant One's Teen Magazine. But with all that being said, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Miss Crystal Bush. Crystal Bush is an actress, writer, director, producer of an amazing award-winning solo show, Chrissy Meth. The Devil and the Journey Back to Self. Chrissy Meth premiered at the Hollywood Fringe Festival in 2019, Diverse Diva nominee by the LAWTF. So, hey, Crystal, how are you?
Hey.
I'm loving this energy. I'm just put that out there. Energy is a major thing to me. So I'm feeling this energy that you're giving me.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm doing all right. I'm living a good life right now. I'm so happy and excited, and so many amazing things are happening. And I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel bad. I know a lot of people are going through a lot of things, but at the same time, this is such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And for me, I just had to look at it that way.
Yeah.
And initially back in March, when this all went down, when LA first went into quarantine and all that, sometimes I have on my little tin hat and I get a little conspiracy theory, and I was like, oh, the world's coming to an end, and I was like really afraid. I got really afraid, and I had to turn that TV off.
Yeah, definitely.
The TV off and get to what I knew to be the truth for me.
Yeah. It could definitely consume you.
Yeah, so it was definitely a moment there where it was kind of like, and I was just sitting in front of TV with my little popcorn, just like, oh my God, all these people died, oh my God, and it was just such a moment where I had to catch myself.
Yeah.
Say, okay, it's okay to listen, and I had to say, I'm going to listen to, I'm going to pick my days and times. I'm going to listen to the recap, because LA, we had our mayor and our governor would come on. I'm sure they did this across the country,
right.
Locally, your local news, and so I would always try to catch what was going on. Maybe I would give myself 30 minutes, maybe 45 max.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you know what I mean? In the beginning, they was talking about, all them checks that was coming. So, I need to know when that was coming. I need to know when them checks coming. Look, y'all giving out rent money in LA. Let me get in this line. Let me get these bills paid, okay? So, I hate it when something happened. I talk to a friend, they be like, girl, they giving away there's a grant money. I'm like, where's that, girl? Where's it? I missed that news report. So, I tried to keep my ear to the ground when it came to the benefits being distributed. But
amen.
You right. But for the most part, when all that other stuff and everything else going on, I kind of had to, put my head to the, just like look within and find joy and the peace and love within myself, and just kind of like pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing. You know, I have a relationship with White Fire Theater. I, you know, did Chrissy Meth last year doing the French. And so it was just really deep the way it happened. Like, I had just got accepted into LAWTF, which is the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival for this year. My show was going to be March 20th, and COVID hit. And it was like literally the first thing that you know got hit. In my opinion, I know a lot of industries got hit, but the theater industry, literally the theaters closed overnight.
Yeah, the music industry too. I mean, we was like nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was like, what?
Yeah.
And it was like a moment of fear, like, oh my God, my show, oh my God, you know. And I was just getting ready, you know. I have a career coach at the office, and my career coach was just like trying to get me to like start, you know, getting out there and pitching my show to like big directors to try to get on Broadway.
Right.
Know? And I was like, oh Lord help me, what am I say? What I say? And I was trying to figure that out. And then COVID hit, and I was like, well, shit, I guess I don't need to pitch no more.
That's pretty funny.
What do I do now? And literally, as soon as I asked that question, Brian, the artistic director and the creator of the White Fire Theater, posted the streaming fest. It popped up on my Facebook. I said, that's what I'm talking about, right? We got a pivot of it. We got a pivot of it. I said the streaming fest. Who knew?
Hey, they had to come up with something. They had to figure it out. I mean, that thing made you pivot, and it made everybody quickly come up with some additional things. So I can definitely. But let me stop you real quick. I definitely want to dive into, you know, the festival and all of that type of stuff. But let's get a little bit background about who you are. I mean, I read, you know, some things about you, but let you tell us, all of our listeners and stuff, you know.
Oh God. Who am I? Yeah. You know, first and foremost, I'm a child of God. And
amen.
So, you know, I'm originally from Chicago. You know, I'm a Black girl from the west side of Chicago, and I'm from the suburbs, but you know, it's all the same. I got my whole family is in Chicago. I moved to California back a little while ago, and I've been out here by myself for a minute. My entire family's in Chicago, west side, south side, north side, everywhere, every side, you know. And my mom's in Milwaukee, so I got peeps up in Milwaukee. And so, you know what I mean? I'm a true Midwesterner. And I went to grade school, high school, college in Illinois, you know. Never really left, and at a very young age, I had the honor and the privilege to be able to study in Europe. I went to school in south of France. I lived in Europe for 7 years, and you know, I'm pretty much a regular chick. You know,
That's not regular.
I grew up with my grandparents. You know, I grew up with a God-fearing Southern woman, raised by a Louisiana Black woman, you know what I mean? And who believe in ass whooping. You know what I'm saying? So I was raised like that, you know? So in terms of dignity and self-respect and integrity and values of hard working, that's where I come from. I definitely, you know, my parents had some issues, and I talk about that a bit in my show, which is how I ended up with my grandparents. And I have a huge family. I have 4 brothers and sisters on each end. My mom had 4 other children, and my dad had 4 other children.
Oh, you do have a big family.
Yeah, so I have 8 nieces and nephews between the 2. And I'm not even about to name all of them because I don't want nobody to get mad. But I have an amazing family. Although, you know, I have an amazing family, it was a little, you know, in the beginning, you know, it was a little disjointed. So I definitely grew up kind of like by myself a little bit because they were separated, you everybody was with their respective family. Like my sisters were with my stepmom, because my stepmom, my dad broke up, and then my mom, I wasn't with my mom, so her kids were with her, and I didn't grow up in that household. So I didn't really grow up with my siblings. So I kind of had a weird family dynamic growing up, which was definitely deeply impacting. So eventually I went away to college. I went studied business, and then I did that, for the practical thing. I always wanted to be an artist. The entire time when I was in my undergraduate program, I was good friends with a lot of famous actors today, and that I went to school with. They were friends of mine at the time, and they were encouraging me to move to New York, live your dream, do your thing. And so when I got my business degree, I was like, I really wanna try this theater thing out. I really want to see, what I can do. And so I ended up going to Roosevelt University downtown, getting my theater degree. And then shortly after that, some opportunities opened up for me in Sacramento. I moved to Sacramento, and then I worked my way down Sacramento. I was in the Bay Area for a few years, and then down to LA. So, yay.
I also see that you're okay. So, well, let me go back a little bit. You said that you had a normal life, childhood, but going over to Europe and studying in Europe, nothing about that is normal.
Okay.
Because most people don't do that. So how did that come about?
Incidentally, unfortunately, I had a hard way to go. At the tail end of that, when I turned like 18, I had some hardship, and I left home when I was 18.
Okay.
And me and my grandma, we, finally that it, hey, how I go. And I graduated, and I was where I was, and she was where she was. And she was like, yeah, that part. You can't go by my rules. You can get the hell out.
Get out. Right.
So at 18, I wasn't down with that. I wasn't happy about that. It was a very traumatic, sad, and tragic experience to leave home at 18 years old. And when I left, I didn't have anywhere to go. I couch surfed with a few friends, and I'm sure if any of my people from Maywood on this live right now, they'll be like, yes, she was on our couch. It's funny because I was dating this guy, and I remember I was hiding in his parents' basement for a while, and I had a hard time, real hard time, and so me and my best friend at the time, her dad was like, y'all need to go get in the Army Reserve. You better go get in the Army.
Right.
So we tried to go to the Army, and at this point, it's late in the game. It's like June. I graduated from high school. I didn't know what to do. I hadn't really done any college applications because I didn't know what I was gonna do. And now at this point, I'm homeless. I don't, I got like a little job. My life's just topsy-turvy.
Right.
And so we went to go register to the Army or the Reserve or whatever, and I did really good on all the tests and stuff, and I think I qualified to be like an MP. Like I had it going on. I would have been the bomb if I would have went to the Army, and because I always loved languages and stuff, so I knew I wanted to travel. So I was like, Army's where it's at for me. So when we went to go get in the Army, girl, they were like, so your next swear-in date will be like November. And it's like July. And, I don't want to get too deep up into it, but I kind of was like somewhere where it wasn't really safe for me a little bit, And so I had to make a choice. I had to make a decision about what to do and where to go. Mm-hmm. And so I hurried up and just applied for a whole bunch of state schools. So, you can apply for Illinois, whatever state school you in your state at last minute, you know, these little schools, because they're not real high in the rankings, whatever, you know. So and late in the game, I applied to Northern Illinois University, which is about 2 hours west of Chicago, way out in cornfield. And I ended up getting accepted. What happened was I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I applied to be in a language program. And it was called the Foreign Language Residency Program. And in this program, you sit and eat with the native speakers. The language I chose was French. So I lived in a dorm with only in my area, only French-speaking people. It was all different languages, and they put us all in our different groups. So my roommate spoke French, and when we went to dinner in the cafeteria, we sat together. We only spoke French, and so you know, I what happened, you know, by the grace of God, I applied for the scholarship, and I got in this program and got a full scholarship for school.
Wow.
I went to school and got in that program, and just, you know, on a whim, me and my roommate, we were wild childs, you know, and we were 18, 19 years old, and we were like, we wanted to go somewhere for spring break, and she was like, and I was like, well, you know, she was, you know, one of my fair sisters, so I was like, I don't want to go to Daytona, because back then Daytona was where it was at. Remember that?
Yeah.
Hey, remember that? And so Daytona was where it was at, boy. And I was like, I don't really want to go to Daytona. I wasn't feeling Daytona like that, you know, because I'm like, I'm already brown. What's up? How you doing? So. So, and she, I don't know, some kind of way, she was like, well, what if we went to France? And I was like, girl, I said to her, her name was Amy. I said, Amy, girl, I ain't thinking about you. I said, I got $700 after my scholarship. Like, after all my school is paid for, I got $700. You get us to France and back for $700, I'll go to France for spring break with you. Okay? Honey child, went to France for spring break. Girl, didn't come back. Girl, I met John Paul and, you know, everything, you know what I'm saying? So I went and did that, dude. I did it. I did that. And then I came back a new woman.
Of course.
But it was a beautiful thing. You know, it's funny because I was in France last year for when they won the World Cup and stuff, and it's such a different energy now. You know, when I was there, people really loved me, and they, you know, you walk down the street, they'd be like, American girl, black, cool, you know, c'est génial, you know. It was like the bomb. I was like a beauty queen. People would come up to me and kiss me, and, you know, they do the bisous.
The 3 kisses.
Yeah. And, you know, oh, bonjour, American girl, you know. And, oh, man, and I was there last year, and it was like, man, they was looking at us like, we was like, man, it was not cool. It was not good. The energy has definitely changed.
Yeah. I actually used to speak French. That was one of my courses that I took in high school. I can't really say too much outside of comment allez-vous and, you know,
right.
all things, but yeah, I took that. I didn't want to take Spanish, although I was living in Tampa, which everybody was Spanish. So, I mean, spoke Spanish. So I don't know what my mind was thinking at that moment, but I wanted to be a rebel.
Right. And it's funny because I live in LA, and honey, I'm trying to learn Spanish right now, and I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah. So you went over there, and you went over there for spring break, ended up moving over there, and then...
No, just being an immigrant and illegally staying. Let's just keep it real.
Okay, so when did you come back, and when did your...
I came back and forth over the course of some years. I came back, and then I went back, and then I ended up going to school because I was illegal, so I had to like come back, you know, renew my visa and all that kind of stuff. And then when I came back, then I went back, and I actually was legit, you know, got my visa, got my student stuff, and went to school there for a couple of years, and then came back.
Okay. So when did your acting career begin?
Yeah, so once I decided to stop globe trotting and running all over the place, because there was in the time that I went and lived in France, I was traveling a lot of places, all throughout Europe and down in the Caribbean. I loved the Caribbean. I was in Jamaica for a little while, all kinds of just. I was being a 20-something-year-old, you know what I mean? Just living my best life. It was like y'all put me out in the streets and deuces. The world is my oyster, my darling. So that's how I took it, which is a good thing for an 18-year-old at the time. You know, it's a very positive thing. I could have done a lot of things,
right?
I didn't do that because I did the other things later. Praise God.
Right.
But at that age, my head was screwed on pretty tight, and I did good, and I just went out and had an amazing experience in my life and educated myself and increased my knowledge and information about the world on a whole different level. Which was, at that age, in my early 20s, was such a beautiful and wonderful thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I came back, and when I got settled back in the States and got back into school, because I got kicked out of school and all that, and had to reinstate. I remember like when they went and they gave me my information, like you have to go to the community college. It's like you get kicked in your chin because they're like, you got to go to community college and then you can come back to the university.
Right.
Okay, go get your shit. You get your stuff together because you done failed everything.
Right.
So I had to go. I had to go do, and then I came back, and then I got on track, and then I went to Roosevelt and got my MFA in acting, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got your thing in acting, and then tell us about your first time on stage. Were you nervous?
Oh my God. The first show I ever did, I was old. I can't, we don't want to talk about age, but it's so important though, because I think my story is inspiring because I started late doing everything. Like I didn't start dancing ballet till I was like 30. I didn't do my first play until I was 25.
But see, that's a good thing because, so many people, to be very honest with you, think that they've missed their boat, on their dreams, and they don't even try because they're like, it's too late for me. So, hearing that you've always had, a dream and passion about doing it, but it took you a while to actually start doing it. So that's not a bad thing for our listeners, because it can encourage them to say it doesn't matter what age you start, as long as you start and you do something that you love. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And it's funny because it's interesting when you do something that you love, because it's a funny thing. In your mind, you think it's too late. But if it's something that you love, you get in there, you do it, and you make it happen. And then everybody, all your little haters, right, they stand around. Because when I was 30, so by the time I turned like 32, 33, I'm professionally dancing, right? So I'm at like dance auditions and rehearsals and different shows and doing stuff, and people are like looking at me like, oh, you've been dancing since you're like 5, and it's like, no, bitch.
Right.
No, and it's funny because people are so quick to put a judgment on you, and they just know you off the bat. They look at you and they paint you, and I've always had that, where people look at me and they go, oh, well, you da, da, da. Oh, well, you can do that. Oh, well, that's you. And it's like, right. I didn't come from any outstanding circumstances where people were giving me,
right.
You know what I mean? So I had to like really fight for everything that I have, and not fight, but just like really, really get focused and really, really do, because where I'm from, wasn't nobody giving me nothing.
Right. Right.
So I always wanted to dance. So I just one day was like, I'm going to dance. So I went to San Francisco Dance Center. I went every day. I got to a point where it was right around the time I remember Lion King at first came out. I had this little Russian dance teacher. She was like 25. And I went to her and I was like, oh my God, are you going to go to the Lion King auditions? And she was like, no, Cristal, I'm too old. And I was like, shit, I'm going. I'm going. And I did. I'm going. And I didn't get in Lion King, but I got in a whole bunch of other stuff after Lion King. You feel me? Like, I ain't got time. I'm like, I look beautiful. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is my best body. What you talking about? You old girl, get out of here. So but the first time I did a show, it was called Anna LaCosta in a small theater in Evanston, California. What am I saying? Evanston, Illinois. It was my first play, and it was a weird play, but it was good, and it was exciting, and I was so proud of myself. I couldn't believe I did it. I remember, like, I didn't have a car. I was living on the north side of Chicago, and I literally had the train would stop at a certain time, going to Evanston, because Evanston is a suburb. It's where Northwestern University is, right? And I would have to, like, walk to the theater in the snow. I just remember, like, walking in, like, you know what I mean? Like, like 10 o'clock at night, walking home from rehearsal in, like, 6 feet of snow. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so tell us about your one-woman show.
My one-woman show. So when I moved to Sacramento, I met some amazing, beautiful people, and a lot of them today are just totally amazing. But we had a moment in time, and I met some, I was just always, like I said, I've just always been a lone ranger. I came to California by myself. I didn't have a real close relationship with my siblings. We're working on that now. But at the time, I kind of was like a little bit of a wild child. I was very, angry, and I was angry and hurt and wounded and and I was dealing with my own pain, and I think, because today, me and my sisters, we talk about this stuff, and because it's sad, because we missed this moment to have a, to be sisters.
Right.
But I was the oldest, and in my, I feel like I was, hurt the most. I was the experiment, right? Because at that point, nobody had any kids, right? So I was the first one that everybody was like, oh, what do we do? Oh, and they were able to have, like, an amazing life, and people took care of them and gave them birthday parties and gifts, and I didn't get none of that. Anyway, so I didn't. So, I went on in my life, and when I was, so I'm like in my 30s, and I'm living in Sacramento, and drugs was huge. It had already been, like, the crack epidemic had came and went in the 80s. It didn't go away. It just kind of chilled out, and now the new skin in the game was methamphetamine. And I had never heard of it. I didn't know nothing about none of that stuff, you know what I mean? Because that wasn't my thing. But now here I am, young and beautiful and living my best life, living in Sacramento. And I meet some people, and I wanted to party. I didn't, it was one of those things where, like, I went from high school to undergraduate, dropped out, did all that, went back to school, went straight from undergraduate to graduate school, which is a 3-year program. And by the time I got out of school, I was like, yeah, I'm done. So, I feel like it's one of those things where I knew I had this moment in time to try it. It was a brief moment. And I was always curious, because, like, everybody was on drugs. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. Not in your personal life, but, everybody, like, around you, right? You hear about Baby's son and all this, like, all these people around me,
right,
doing a drug, but not me, And so I was curious, I think everybody is curious. You're intrigued by it, right? So I was really intrigued by it. I met some people, and unfortunately, fortunate, unfortunate, whatever. I met a group of people who were like, in that. They was just in it. Not kind of, sort of, maybe. They was in it. But I didn't know that. So that's the part, right? Kind of like a little bit of manipulation, a little bit of like, kind of being lured into something that you don't know, And so, yeah, I tried meth the first time. And this is in my show. The first time I tried meth, I'm up for like 6 or 7 days. So, and then from there, and I was going through a lot, and it was a lot going on, a lot of pain and hurt and resentment. And, I was living in California. I was by myself. I was in and out of jobs and stuff like that. I didn't have money to go back home. I wanted to go back home, but I couldn't. So a lot was going on. And so then there's like friction between my family because of that. People think that I'm not coming home because I'm angry with my grandmother, but I wasn't. I was just really on drugs. And by the time my family kind of like intervened in my life, kind of like start checking in with me, by the time they kind of really start checking on me, I was gone. I was like 50 pounds, knee deep in it.
Wow.
Done, So, and then now I'm strung out. I'm strung out. I'm skinny as fuck. I left Chicago, 14, size, but like a 12, 14 when I left Chicago. And at this point, I'm like barely a 4. You can see my ribs. I'm hecka skinny, and I'm scared. I don't want to go home. I feel really embarrassed because I lost a lot of weight, and I don't really want to. I don't know how to explain how I lost all this weight. Although I look good, girl. Hey, so I was just like really embarrassed and scared, but I look good. You know what I mean? I look good. I was like, hey, how about that flat? You ever had a flat? Like, I had never had a 6-pack. I was like, what? I'm not, now, I'm not advocating that, but you know what I'm saying? In the moment, it was, that's what it was for me. I was like, wow, it was fascinating. It was sad when I didn't know it at first. I had a boyfriend, and he wasn't a boyfriend. He was a guy I knew, and he liked me. And I would run away from the drug people and go hide and hang out with him and get away from them when I was trying to like get back in control.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went on a date with him, and he looked at me and he was like, I don't know what's going on in your life, but you've lost a lot of weight. And I was like, no, I haven't. I look good. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I went home, and I had brought from Chicago with me a pair, them coochie cutters that you like, I'm going to get back in these jeans. I'm going to get in these jeans. I had bought a pair of bell-bottom jeans that I love, that I couldn't fit no more, but I brought them with me. Like, girl, I went home, I put them jeans on, and they fell to the floor. And I just cried because I was like, whoa. And the jeans, looking at myself in the mirror and seeing the jeans on the floor, the fact that I couldn't even make them hang on my hips. I was so skinny. And I had no idea. And I think that was the beginning of me trying to get back in control. I had no idea that I had lost so much weight. I didn't know I looked the way I looked. And I didn't even want to believe that I was strung out at that time.
How long were you on meth?
About 2.5, 3 years. It's like give or take. Because about the last half a year was me trying to get off. So the last half a year was just getting off and falling, like that recovery process of like, you'd be clean for 2 or 3 months, and then something would happen, and then I would go get high just because, drugs for me were, it was a wonderful balm for the pain. right? There was so much pain in my life. I was so unhappy and hurt about so many different things. And I talk about this stuff in the show, but I was disconnected from my mother. I was disconnected from my father. My grandmother was on her deathbed. It was a lot going on, and I was by myself.
Right.
My family was. I didn't grow up in a family where people talk. Nobody talked, so it was just like you just deal with it, right? This thing where you just cope. So you just put on your face and you just keep it moving. And I can't tell you that that's the best way to be.
Right.
I think that's how we end up in the situations we end up in, because nobody talks about anything. People don't want to acknowledge the dirt and the disgust and the bullshit. I'm sorry, but people don't want to acknowledge this stuff. So that's how we end up in situations we in. Look around. I'm not naming no names, but there are people struggling right now with mental disabilities and drug use and all kinds of things. People are hurting and struggling in life, and when you don't have an outlet to talk about these things, this is what happens.
Right.
Sad. And so that's what happened. So I fell like a little wilted flower. I was so hurt, and I didn't know what to do. And there were times in and out of my addiction when it would have been so nice to just do that one hit that I never had to wake up again. And I wanted it. I prayed for it. I begged for it. And in the show, you see when I do that dance, right? There's a dance I do where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take this one more hit and it's gonna be a deuce out. And to be in that space, to be in a place where you don't want to live, it's a very painful place to be.
Right.
It's sad, and it was heartbreaking. And I knew I could do better, and I wanted to do better, but I couldn't at that time. And I was so strung out. I was so on drugs, and I loved it. When you're on drug, when I was on drugs, everybody's different, but for me, I found a freedom in it. And the number one thing that I found in it, that this is how I think it gets you, is that for me, it suppressed my emotions.
Right, numbs your pain.
It numbs the pain. Right? Like in my show, there is a moment when I say, I haven't been to sleep, right? Is there a moment? Oh yeah, in the show, I talk about how I can't cry, right? I don't feel anything. I'm a cry, I'm about to cry now, right? So I'm such a crybaby. I was so tired of crying. It was so amazing to not cry. Oh my God, it was just I was like, oh my God, I'm not crying. I want to cry, but I can't. And I didn't. And I loved it. And because I was so tired of being hurt and in pain. And so that's it. It's a balm, and it's a like this lip balm. It's a balm. It soothes your soul, and it's such a brief moment. It's soothing, and it's exciting, and it's elating, and it's provocative, and it's sexy, and it's all these things. And then them lights, then that light switch hits, right? And then the darkness comes, and then you really go to the bottom. And if you're lucky, you might come back to the light.
And what was the bottom for you?
I was pretty bottom. I was kind of a homeless crackhead for a little while.
Okay, so how did you pull yourself out of that? Because that has to be hard, and like you said, you didn't really have the support from your family. So where did you find that strength to pull yourself up?
I think that the most amazing thing about my drug addiction was that I believe that God was with me the entire time. And there were so many times when people would talk to me and they would say, "Oh, you're so pretty. Why are you out here like that? You know? Why are you out here? You're too pretty to be out here like that. You know? You're so gorgeous. You're so intelligent. Why are you out here like this?" And I was just like, I didn't care. And I would smoke. I was so defiant. I was just such a little rebel. I'm who I am on drugs or what. You know what I mean? I'm just like this little rebel. And I didn't care. I just would mock it. But I remember thinking about it and praying about it when I was trying to get out of it. And I remember thinking about all the people and the things that they would say. I remember one time I was at a party, and then, they have these parties and there's different rooms. You have the crack room, the meth room, and the heroin room, right? And I remember I wanted to try heroin so bad. And one of the characters in my show who ends up being a good friend of mine, his name is Floozy. And he was like this drag queen and a sister mother, And Floozy was just like, he wouldn't let me. He wouldn't let me do the heroin, And he yelled at me. And we were sitting in the living room, and I remember like arguing with him, like almost fighting with him to go do the heroin, right? And he was like, "You can't, he just like totally yelled at me. He pushed me, and he just yelled at me. He was just like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, I can't remember all the words, but just like that moment where this person, who the last person on earth you would expect to get in your face and get you straight, right? He like got in my, like back in the day we call it jack your slacks, right? He got in my face and was like, "No, you're not doing this. You are too beautiful. He's like, "You want to be like me? What do you do? Why are you doing this?" And he just went off on me. He just went off on me. And I remember like trying to dismiss him, like, he a fucking heroin addict. Like, how you gonna tell me? And I remember like trying to dismiss that. But of course, when I went home in my private space, I was like, somebody's looking out for me. Somebody's looking out for me. So I lost Floozy. We had a time together. We went all the way to the bottom together. And I lost him. And at the time, I was continuing to try to do theater as high as I was. And I did too. And I was doing theater. And I met a brother. There was a brother. I was in a play. I'm in Oakland. I was in a play, and a black play. And there was a brother named OJ Kemp, AJ Kemp. AJ Kemp, he's a DJ in the Bay Area right now to this day. I forget what station he's on. AJ Kemp, I had met AJ Kemp. He was the sound guy of the show I was in. And he would always be like hitting on me, you know what I'm saying? He'd be like, "Oh, we should go out, da, da, da." And I remember one day I yelled at him. I was like, "AJ, you are too old for me, okay? So let that be." You know what I mean? I'm like, And so, but one day he said, "Oh, well, let's just be friends," or something like that, So we became friends. And, I didn't know it, but AJ was a sponsor and a recovering addict. And he had been all over the world. He had lived in London for a while. He had a mean drug addiction when he lived in London, and came back, and now he's like a sponsor. And so, AJ saw me a mile away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was topsy-turvy, like I was strung out, but I was still moving forward. I was still doing the do, I was still getting out.
Functional.
I was functioning. And so, but he saw it, and I'm sure a lot of people saw it, but nobody,
Nobody.
I was sassy too, you can't tell me nothing, So or at least at that time. I was real sassy. So when people would say stuff, I'd be like, So then he called me one day and was like, I talk about this in the show. He calls me one day. He's talking real fast. He's like, hey, I got a room for rent. Da, da, da. And I'm like, what? So, like, why? And so he lures me to move out of Oakland, which is like right there in the way, right where Pop used to be, like in the dirty, they call it the lower bottoms. I was staying in the lower bottoms, and he lured me out of the lower bottoms into like San Leandro, which is like a suburban area. And girl, he did a intervention on me. Got me in a clean and sober house. So, and it wasn't easy. But I moved, and I moved into the house, and the first, couple of years was hard. And because, he lured me at the height of my party. I was not trying to stop at that time. And so, I had some growing pains in the beginning, but eventually I got in the house and I became, a leader in the house. And it was deep. It was a long road. And I lived in the house for a very long time too. For those, for people, I allowed myself to just be there. I didn't care. I didn't put a time on it. I left when it was time. So a lot of people come in the house and they're kicking and screaming the whole time. I came in the house and I had my moments, and I got high when I was in the house. I think it is what it is, when you're in the height of your party, you're not ready, especially if somebody did an intervention on you, you know how it is. If you're not ready to stop, you're not ready to stop. But being in the environment, in a recovery environment, helped me to get on the path to stop, right? And so being around the sponsors, being forced to go to NA, being forced to go to the meetings and having the meetings at the house, and being in an environment where you're being around people who are trying to be a positive light of sobriety to you, it was inspiring. And I wanted to, at some point, I got myself together and I carried that torch, And, but I was in the house for almost 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I stayed there a good little while. I didn't want to leave right away, because I wasn't sure.
Probably scared too.
Yeah. So I stayed there a good little while, and then, I left when it was time and when I was ready. And then I left, and it was like a light switch, I never talked about it. I never told nobody. I just went. I got in a huge musical. I got in my first equity paying gig, and I got a new group of friends, and I went on with my life. And I never talked about it. And my sisters, I was at home when I was writing the script, right? And I gave a little bit of it to my sister, and she's like, "Girl, you ain't telling me nothing I didn't know." So I was, I had hid it, and I didn't talk about it, and I denied it, and I completely denied it to my family. I would never tell my family the truth about that. Never. And, when it was time for me to write the show, I remember I was trying to write the show about something different. I was trying to write about love, and I was trying to write about the man that I met out of my recovery, that I ended up being with for 9 years. I was trying to write about him. And, but it didn't work out, because when I was in the writing process, people kept going, but wait, how did you, but that don't make sense, And I was like, and I remember I came home and I said, God, am I supposed to tell this story? Is this what we gonna tell?
Yeah. But you see that what God ended up doing is he ended up using your story and everything that you've been through to now shed light, and it's going to help other people. So that's how Chrissy Meth was born. Wow. Okay. So A Dance with the Devil and the Journey Back to Self. That's an amazing title. When did you officially have your first debut of this?
June 6th at the Hollywood Fringe last year.
Oh, okay.
I started writing it like late 2018. I was at home in Chicago for Thanksgiving and I signed up for these writing classes, and I was trying to cancel the writing class, right? And the girl, she ended up being my director. She was like, yeah, no. She was like, yeah, we can Skype. I was like, and she was like, yeah, so you just have the 4 pages ready. I was like, I'm like, I'm at home in Chicago. Yeah, we'll deal with that later. She's like, no, we can Skype. I was like, oh, and I stayed up all night trying to write them 4 pages.
Wow.
That's how it started. And so I started writing it, and then I just, I was scared. I didn't want to tell the truth, and then I just, I've been through a lot of healing myself. So I was going through my healing, and, in my recovery process, I use yoga and meditation and prayer in my recovery process. And I believe in that, and it helped me. And so in my thing, I talk about that. And in the show, I acknowledge that. And so that healing that I've been going through, it allowed me to be able to say, okay, I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to tell it the way I'm going to tell it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. The dirty, the dark, the ugly, the everything.
Right.
And so I tell it.
So in this journey, you also was going in and out of abusive relationships. How did you finally say enough?
I think that when you are vulnerable and when you are on drugs, and drugs is anything, right? So for those out there watching, you may not be on drugs, but your thing may be food. It may be sugar. It may be alcohol. It may be pill popping. I got a lot of pill poppers out here in LA.
Right.
And they think it's okay, So it's like, no, baby, you're slip showing, So, your thing might be your thing, but anything that you're using that is to help you cope emotionally, it's an addiction. It's a crutch. Right? So, when you are not conscious, when you are not taking control and dominion over your own life, and you allow other people to control you, or you're so out of it, then they think they can control you, right? So that's what happens. I believe that wholeheartedly. When you find yourself in these situations where people are being abusive and physically, verbally, whatever, it's because you're not asserting a certain level of authority and control and confidence in your own self, in your own body, in your own mind. Because people who do things like that, they prey on weakness.
Yeah.
When you're being weak, and in this whole weakness strong thing, we get it confused, because strongness does not have to equate masculinity. You can still be your feminine woman self, but being strong in who you are, in the belief of what you can do in your life, and standing by being a child of God. And I think that's the other thing too, is the spirituality aspect of it. Knowing who you are inside, So that's how I think that when I went in recovery, none of that stuff can fly, right? You can't abuse me now because I'm conscious.
Right.
I'm not high on drugs. You can't beat the shit out of me now because see, back then I was a $105. You could throw me around. I was little. I was high. You could do that. Because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't love myself.
Right.
And I'm looking for love from someone who could give to, you know, and because that person is broken.
Right.
And I don't know what it is about people, even here in Hollywood, you know, it's a trip, watching the landscape of like weakness versus strength and power, right? This ability to, you know, pounce on people when they're at their lowest.
Right.
And the fact that people get off on doing that, it's disgusting and it's sad. And it breaks my heart every time I see stuff like that, you know. Just a classic example, just the Harvey Weinstein situation, you know, just all those kind of circumstances where people are being abused and taken advantage of in the pursuit of their art or a living or whatever. I don't know what that is, and I don't think that we're ever going to get to the bottom of that. And I don't think that you know, maybe we're not even supposed to. It just is what it is. Like we are all individuals, and we are all living and having our own experience in this life right now. And it's up to you to decide how you want to live your life.
Right.
And how you want to live your life, and in living that life, just finding love for yourself, because it is nobody else's responsibility, and nobody else is going to love you the way you need to love yourself. And that, I can't tell you the lessons I've learned from not doing that for myself.
Right.
For not looking out for myself, for not loving myself, and for accepting and dealing with other people's junk because I didn't feel good about myself. Yeah. So that's why I have a big smile on my face right now. And that's why I was walking down the street and I almost fell today, because I was looking in the sky, smiling. I was in the clouds. And God said, you're on Earth. Hello, Earth to Crystal.
Well, I am, glad to see that you were able to turn your life around, because there's so many that hit bottom and they don't recover from that. So you recovering from that and then being bold and strong enough to tell your story. I know that took a lot, because you're being very transparent. And, through you being transparent, I would imagine it's a healing process, for you as well, because like even with my book, Fear of Failure, Fear of Not Trying, I was so transparent. I was so nervous and so scared to write the book because it's about my life and my ups and downs in this music industry, my divorce and all of these things. And of course, I was terrified to let people hear about it or to write about it or even put it on paper, But what I found was that it was therapeutic for me, and it helped me heal a lot. So I would imagine, when you're doing your Chrissy Meth, A Dance with the Devil, and
Back to
Self, I'm sure when you're doing your show, you're honestly touching a lot of people, but in the process, you're healing a lot of things within yourself. So, I truly commend you for that. Honestly.
Yeah, I was really scared at the beginning when it was one thing to write it. Writing it was deep, right? Because you're writing it. And it's like reading a book, right? You know how you used to read a book and then you cry about it, right? Now we're writing our own stories and you're crying about it, right? So I had that moment, but then I had to go actually put it on his feet and act it out.
Yeah.
So that was another doozy.
Yeah.
And I was a little nervous, but I am proud to say, as much as I do simulated drug use and act it out and talk about it, I am so 100% so far away from all of that. I am merely telling a story. I'm telling my story, and with the hopes of touching somebody else and showing them another way. and showing them that their story, and I think the most important thing about my story, because it's so dark, dirty, and nasty, oh my God, a lot of people who go there, they think that they're the only ones, and so they don't want to talk about it. So I got real dirty and dark with it to show you, you ain't the only one. You're not the only one.
Right.
It's a lot of brothers and sisters out here in LA on Skid Row, you know, and they always they talk like, you know, like, oh, this just happened to me, da, da, da. And it's like, well, you know, you're not the only one. It's a lot of people that go to the bottom.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to the bottom, you know. So that's the part, you know. You can go there, but you don't have to stay there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway.
Absolutely. So we're gonna kind of wrap this up a little bit.
Yes.
Where can people find you? And you was talking about during the COVID now that you was able to submit your play.
Uh-huh.
For the online.
Yeah, it's Whitefire. So www.whitefire.com. Whitefiretheater.com. And if you go on their main website, it'll say the Streaming Fest. So it's the first streaming festival. So because people can't come to the theater,
right?
Guess what? You can stay in your little quarantine corner with your little laptop or your phone. You can Netflix and Chrissy Meth chill with me, baby. And so you can see me. You could blow me up on your big screen, or you can have me on your little phone. Whatever how you do it, however you do it. But whitefiretheater.com, Chrissy Meth, A Dance with the Devil and the Journey Back to Self will live stream August 22nd, 7 p.m. Pacific, because that's important because people are going to be from all over the world. 7 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what that is in Chicago and New York. Y'all figure that out. I think it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Chicago, 10 o'clock New York. Yeah, because Brian said, well, you know, New Yorkers, they're up late. So it's all good. So I'm gonna do a live stream. I would love to see everybody, you know, come hang out with me. I'm going to do we'll do a live chat after the show is over. I'm gonna do the full. It's a 60-minute show, so I'll do the full 1-hour show. With the lights and everything. We're gonna do it on stage. Now, he's been playing around. It's going to be shot like theater, so it won't be like a movie, y'all. So it's different, right? Looking at a stage production on video versus something that's shot to be a movie. It's a different dynamic. Right. So we are shooting a stage performance digitally. So just because, you know, some of my techie film people, you know, Brian said that I think that they're experimenting with doing some shots where, you know, it's like the audience with the camera versus inside the theater. Mm-hmm. He's been playing around with that, I think, because the Streaming Fest is happening right now. It's just my show is not until August. But yeah, he is playing around with shooting it kind of like a movie, kind of, sort of. So we'll see how it all, how that works out. But it's gonna be amazing either way it goes. It should be really good. I taped my show. I've seen the show already. That's how I made that amazing sizzle reel. So
yeah, I like the sizzle reel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it looks good. I mean, it's a different dynamic for sure, but I think it's a very powerful and profound story. And if you get the family and sit around the TV and get your popcorn, get everything. It's 60 minutes, so it goes by quick. And there's no intermission. So pee, drink, do everything you got to do. And so we'll live stream. I believe your tickets will give you a 48-hour access. So you'll get 48 hours to watch it if you can't make it on the 22nd. and then it will expire within 48 hours. So you get a little elbow room, But the 22nd, if you want to see it live, it will be August 22nd.
Well, I am definitely going to make sure that I tune in. I did see the sizzle reel, and I was like, whoa, like you was pulling a lot of emotions out of just the sizzle reel. So I definitely want to tune in. And after hearing your story, now it definitely makes me want to see it and everything. So I highly recommend that everybody do tune in. What I ask is that on the Facebook page, if you could go on there and just put, whatever the link is going to be or the information again on the Facebook page, because a lot of the listeners, they come back and they listen to the show and everything, so they can, still have the information and know where to go for August 22nd. But I am definitely going to tune in myself in support. I'm very excited for you, because I can see this really turning into some major thing for you. So what's next for you, and do you have a website? Where can people find you?
No, I don't have, okay. So my website is Crystal Bush, the actress, and it's not up. It's under construction because it's just so hard doing all this stuff. So please forgive me. I'm working on it, you guys. Please forgive me. But you can communicate with me at I am Crystal Bush on Instagram. I am Crystal Bush on Instagram. You could travel me on Facebook at Crystal Bush, and I have a fan page, Crystal Bush the Actress fan page on Facebook. So those are some of the best places to get a hold of me. On my Facebook, you can also see my sizzle reel and all the information about the show. I will constantly be posting about it, so you won't ever forget. And as well, I will go on on yours as well, and put the information as well. But those are the best places right now. I can't do too many. I can't do too many. Facebook is where it's at for me. That's the best place. And Instagram. I do look at my Instagram direct messages and stuff like that. And I look at my Facebook direct messages. So that's the best place to contact me.
Okay. Well, there you have it, everybody. I want to thank you so much, Crystal, for being on Transparency Talks podcast. We're going to sign off of Facebook, and then I'm going to talk to you real quick. But thank you, guys, and thanks for tuning in to Transparency Talks podcast, and we are out of here.
I admitted I did it, I cheated, so didn't pass it, had to have it, didn't want to give it up. He didn't mean a thing, I put that on everything, just wanted something different.